Thank you very much for coming out. Hopefully we can give you some insights and some really practical solutions on how you can use the cloud and managed services research that is available through publications to start making some very practical decisions, right? Our objective here, as we titled the session, From Concept to Reality, across the industry we've heard altogether way too much talk about the buzz and the possibility, the theory of the cloud and how it may eventually change some things. But last night we were having a conversation with some vendors and the comment was made, you know, it's about time that we turn this stuff into revenue and into real practical decisions about how do we change marketing programs. Which partners should we be recruiting and what kinds of characteristics are most likely to indicate a partner that can in fact sell cloud-based solutions and actually survive going forward. We want to make this a very practical conversation. So to do that, we brought together the minds behind the research as well as industry minds to kind of take a look at this and say, all right, enough with the opinions, enough with what I think and what you think, let's look at real facts based on research and what's happening in the marketplace right now. Let's get started here with some real questions, all right? I want to start here just on this end of the table. We'll start with Jessica as we start looking at it from the research point of view, right? There is an overlap, there's a collision between what we traditionally refer to as the world of the managed service provider and then the emerging world of the cloud. Based on what I see in the numbers, it looks like those lists are starting to kind of overlap a little bit, the actual players. Tell me a little bit from your point of view, what are you seeing in the numbers about the world of managed service providers moving into the cloud?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. There's a few overlapping names on the Talking Cloud 100 list and the MSP 501 list. As you could guess, probably, if a company placed on the Talking Cloud 100 list at, say, 25, they were probably higher up on the MSP Mentor 501 list. Some of the companies that have been on both lists include Mindshift Technologies, All Covered, TechLinks, the bigger companies. The interesting thing to me is I haven't seen a huge shift over the last year in companies placing on both lists. It's remained relatively stable, and it makes me think that companies are looking for help to get more into the cloud services market and are looking for more assistance from vendors on that. It is a big shift. It's like the shift from selling products to selling services and how big that was. Today the shift is moving from selling the managed services to selling the hosted services, and that's different again. And we're just at the beginning of that shift. So I think the companies are still looking for help on that.
Okay, fascinating point here, right? I want to make sure you guys really understand. How many of you, show of hands, were around the industry 10 years ago when we were aggressively going through that shift to managed services, right? You watched product resellers learn to sell services and recurring contracts, okay? There has been an assumption for the last 5 years that managed service providers had a significant head start into the cloud. They already have recurring revenue, they already have the right cash model. They're going to naturally move into the cloud and be successful before everybody else. That is not what the research is showing, okay? That's not what we're finding from the reality. Yes, the business models are similar, but the transformation from one product set to a different service offering is still very significant, and they need help. It's not safe just to say, oh, you're a managed service provider. You've been through a change before. Come with me into the cloud. It'll totally be easy. Absolutely won't be easy. We have to lead them that direction. From your point of view, right, as you're looking at the big themes, right, the people that are leading, what are the characteristics of the channel companies that are on the top of the list? What can we actually say that we know about who's winning in the cloud right now?
Well, they're very agile companies. They're companies that are willing to turn on a dime to be able to service their end user customers. And as their customers are looking more toward saving money, moving to a revenue-based model, they're moving to a services-based offering to be able to accommodate that. They also see the value of maybe not putting their eggs in one basket when it comes to vendor relationships. they're also looking more toward their vendors to help them make that transition to the cloud, or at least add to it more fully. And that it's so much more these days than just revamping their channel program to give them more margins on certain areas. So much more emphasis on training and education and marketing and helping them educate their end user customers on the value of the cloud and at the end of the day, how they can save money.
Okay, killer takeaway right there that I just caught out of that portfolio diversity. Right? We measure loyalty at the partner level. Are you engaged with me as a vendor? Am I the only vendor that you sell in that category? How often do you lead with my offering to your end users? Well, in a product sales world, they might have been significantly more loyal than they will be in a cloud world. They're going to be, think of it like gravity, right? They're far more attracted to being loyal to their end customer than they are to the vendors whose stuff that they sell. Very different management challenge. You mentioned end users as kind of the center point of what we're trying to build as solutions. Tim, I'd love to hear from your point of view at the research that you guys are doing at the end level, right? When they choose one cloud option, one provider, one solution provider over anybody else, what are they actually measuring? What does the customer care about? Are they measuring brand? Are they measuring functionality? What does the customer actually want in a cloud solution?
It's interesting. Over the years, you would think that most end users would now know the terminology, and they would now have a pretty good sense whether it's infrastructure as a service, platform, software, but there's still a fair amount of confusion out there. And when you conduct end user research, you have to be really careful, because what the customer says and what they're actually doing is usually two different things. So there's still some cloud washing, there's still some, and some of this on the vendor side, they're promoting solutions that maybe it's really more of a virtualized atmosphere or environment as opposed to a true cloud solution. But there certainly has been progress over the past couple of years. We've seen customers, they've moved beyond experimentation. And what's interesting now is they are looking for that next level of optimization. They may have cut their teeth with that first cloud vendor, and now they realize these are my top 3 priorities, and they're starting to move cloud to cloud. That's a big issue. Integration, the low-hanging fruit has been taken care of, but what happens when you want to move a CRM that has a lot of proprietary code that's been built up over years? How do you move that to the cloud? So as Mike said, a lot of challenges around integration, which is also a lot of opportunities for channel partners.
Okay, fine.
If you look at the customer's behavior, though, it's more often than not, it's some developer or line of business guy that drove a cloud decision than it is the classic IT. And so if you're a solution provider who's wrapped up around IT, then all that's happening around you and you don't feel and receive as much. And so you lose the opportunity. So there's different types of solution providers emerging who are born in the cloud that are focused on that particular area. So you got to kind of watch that whole space, because those guys might become the leaders of tomorrow. They're kind of small at the moment, but there's definitely a shift in not only where our application workloads are going, but who's making that decision that's changing the behavior of the way the channel companies operate.
Okay, so a really important concept here that I think is coming out, right? Going to market in the cloud, slightly different decision maker, different sales process. Therefore, our legacy partners, the ones that are already big in your program, by definition, they were born in a marketplace where these facts were not true. They grew up in a world where they were selling to the classic IT decision maker. Will they be able to make the transition, or will you have new startup born in the cloud partners who become your big go-to-market resources, okay? I think if you take a look at everybody has the pyramid of stack ranking your partners, right? Your 80-20 rule of where you get all the money from. Are the guys at the very top of that pyramid able to make the shift in cash flow, in sales model, in portfolio, in the way that they put together solutions? Are they going to make the change? And if not, how does that affect your next 2 or 3 quarters of revenue? Okay, that's where it really starts to meet the road.